まだってごまかし笑っていた。足りなくて補って届かなくて、誰もがきっと見失って生きづらさの理由を知る。呼吸はまだ続くか、一息で貫くためには少し苦しいだろう。許せいっぱい我らが行くことを、今埋める時を見事かしゃぎきれても道だけは続いている。その美しさもあれにも対岸に消える高さ、残り数よせずね、まだ進んでけ進んでけ夜を越えて。間違えたままだって歩くのは得意だった。かけたままだってごまかし笑っていた。足りなくて補って届かなくて、誰もがきっと見失って生きづらさの理由を知る。呼吸はまだ続くか、一息で貫くためには少し苦しいだろう。許せいっぱい我らが行くことを、今埋める時を見事かしゃぎきれても道だけは続いている。その美しさもあれにも対岸に消える高さ、残り数よせずね、まだ進んでけ進ん。
Good evening. We are picking up where we left off on Monday. Congratulations, Jake Straw, on being first, and also thank you for the head pass approximately 5 minutes ago. We're starting a little bit late because Samurai Remnant did what Samurai Remnant does. But presumably we're going to make up for that by going very fast through the story, because I'm not doing things that I did on the first playthrough. kinda wanna do things for Tamamo. We'll see. Trying to remember how to play this game. Zajoji, right. Also, I realized that perhaps the higher difficulties are more balanced for, like, higher levels. So, maybe once my level gets a bit higher, I would turn the level difficulty up. Or maybe I'll do that right now, actually. And then, like, I'll save, like, the highest difficulty for, like, if he already hits 99 or whatever. Also, one of the purple encounters is, like, one of the harder things you can try to do. So that was also somewhat unwise. Let me double check what I need. Okay, I just need 3 more things from Rogue Saber, and I can max out water. And then I need Li Xuan, and for that I basically need to do his digressions. And then Saber, I think I needed to kill people. Like with him. It might have even needed to be humans. I'll have to double check. First things first, though. I have to demonstrate that foxes are better than dogs. I actually have Irish heritage, so I feel a little bit funny, even in jest, claiming myself to be better than Ku. Ow, my bones. The one downside of having my swords be one with the void, as opposed to, like, something like Break Shell, I guess, is that if I'm not in void stance, I'm losing out on a lot of my stats. I mean, true, but, like, conceivably I could swatch stances, except now it's, like, beyond just void stance being effective. I'm losing out on, like, 200 stats if I'm not in void. Oh well, it is what it is. It wasn't particularly fast, but it got the job done. Crimson light piercing the earth. Fast forward through previously read things, yes please. Oh, the battlefield is for the dead. And this is Archer. Jing Xingong moves south in pursuit of the snake. Following after the troops he had sent ahead, he steps foot into Todoroki. Would he find the snake's den, or the mouth of hell? Well, it's the start of the game, so it's not the mouth of hell. That happens at the end. Well then, shall we search for a clues of assassin? Wait, on your guard, master. There's an unsettling presence. Well, this is quite the reception. A type of Jiangxi. No, they're just being controlled. I want to handle this without killing. Silence frenzied enemies without spilling blood. You make such unreasonable demands. But a retainer must answer even the most unreasonable demands. I will do my best. I will non-lethally shoot them between the eyes. I'll fire a warning shot into their face. I worry about the men that I sent ahead. I hope they're all safe. Why don't we ask around? There's no hiding who we are anyway. Yes, that seems like our only choice. Maybe we should have brought along somebody who could justify our being here. Like how even though I'm controlling Jing, my icon is still that of Archer. Pet dog, very important. It bothers me just a tiny little bit that my health is 3 of the same number and not 4 of the same number. Like it's 3332 as opposed to like 3333. Oh my, so many Chinese people today. Are you with the group that were by the Fudo statue? I don't know what you're up to, but please don't cause any trouble. That's slightly racist of you, madam, but I won't. Wait, hold on. Oh, I guess that's not a... I thought that was one of the things that I can, like, gather mana from. In hindsight, I guess it makes sense that I wouldn't be able to do that as not Iori. You know, I saw a group of samurai near the Fudo statue the other night. I saw them too. They seem to be coming around a lot lately. I wonder why. Hey, what business do you foreigners have here? There was some kind of disturbance around Todoroki Fudosan. That was you, wasn't it? I didn't know what you meant when you said you couldn't leave Akasaka, but now I see. Change our clothes and we're no different from them. Oh well. Todoroki Fudosan, was it? Oh, Aqua, thank you for the hydration. Todoroki Fudosan, was it? Something fishy is going on here. There, let's go. There's no helping them. They were left as bait to lure us here. Who do they think we are? Who do they think we are? Oh, my stream preview just, Okay, that was weird. My preview of the stream just kind of like crashed, but it seems like the stream itself wasn't affected, so that's good. Many of my people escaped the Jing massacre with little more than their lives, letting my men die in a foreign land, unable to return home. It's shameful. Let's hurry to Todoroki Fudosan. You demand vengeance, don't you? Well, I can get behind some vengeance. Sir, you are petting the air near the cat. Back when I had kitties, I used to do that sometimes to rage bait them. They would, like, walk up and be like all cuddly and needy, and I would like start petting like a foot over their head, and then they would get mad at me. You're like, no, you're doing it wrong. I love rage feeding cats. It's a form of love, and I always make sure to cuddle them lots and lots afterwards. I just really want to bully this skeletal warrior in particular. Oh, whoops. Okay, screw this one nameless mook in particular, I suppose. I got my wires crossed. I hit the Noble Phantasm button on a guy that was already dead. If you're worn out, why not withdraw? I can handle this alone. Ah, how kind of you. The warriors of this era aren't as frail as you think. Yeah, I was like, oh, I want to bully this skeletal warrior in particular, the guy that I was juggling, but then I think the guy that I Noble Phantasmed when he was already dead probably got him worse. Wow, having my Noble Phantasm will be really useful right about now for breaking through the shell gauge. Anyway. Am I see if I can use the bow in Monster Hunter? Yeah. I briefly tried playing with the bow in Monster Hunter Wilds, and it was actually quite fun. I enjoyed how nimble it was. I just missed my Element discharges, so I went back to Charge Blade. I like hitting things really, really hard. I'd rather do like one hit that's like 100 rather than 10 hits that are 10. Just in general. Yeah, although I've heard recently that Monster Hunter Wilds has been running much, much better. Like, apparently they, like, actually properly fixed it. And I hadn't played it for quite some time, partially because it just didn't run very well. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it was enough, combined with other things. I just had to stop. If it's running better, I might go back to it now. Well, not now, but you know what I mean. Magical traces still remain. The magic user headed south. What shall we do, Master? I believe we should withdraw and revise our strategy. You're right. We sustained heavy losses as well. Pushing forward like this won't help. Which means you'd be willing to press on if we'd lost fewer men? Isn't that a perfectly reasonable strategy? Why do you ask? Huh. I simply misjudged your character. I thought you'd fear losing your allies. It pains me to send men to their deaths, but I'm not above seeing them as mere numbers. The last time I wept over somebody's death was my mother's suicide 5 years ago. I'm accustomed to death. My hands are even stained with the blood of relatives. The blood of relatives? Most of the soldiers under my command were taken from my cousin, whom I assassinated. Though my cousin disliked me for having a Japanese mother, he treated me decently. However, I needed soldiers, land, and power, so I killed him. There was no other reason. I then assumed leadership and killed anybody who threatened the military order. All the malice I've earned could be enough to purchase a fleet of ships. This is how I will continue to live until I take the country back for the Ming. Do you find me contemptible? No, but I do understand something now. I now see how you were able to summon me without a catalyst, Ming-yang. Oh? We are alike, even though we are from different times. If I were in your position, I believe I would have done the same. No matter the era, the throne is stained with blood. Lean hands do not achieve victory. I, too, did not hesitate to carry out punishment and purgation. The ploy achieved is purely fiction, though. When you put Huang Gui, or Huang Gai, what's your version of the tale then? At the very least, the me now would adopt a more sound strategy than that wild plan. Master, my only advice is not to burden yourself with what is beyond your control. The lord I served in the past was too severe. His purges only resulted in his own death. We swore to rule the land together, but I let my friend die along the way. Then, Archer, the wish you want granted by the waxing moon is to aid my king and ensure his victory. That is my wish. Did we not discuss this before? Well, you were joking. You kept joking that you'll hastily rewrite the romance of the Three Kingdoms. Sorry, don't get so sullen. You spoke frankly with me, so I did the same. Well, shall we go back? Everybody's waiting for your return. Archer? Yes? Let's talk some more when we get back to Akasaka. As master and servant? Yes. And also as fellow retainers who worry about their countries. I'll take you up on that. It seems I've been blessed to be paired with such a master. Yeah, if you summon without a catalyst, you usually get somebody who you vibe with very well. Shinagawa is where I go next. Like, I'm just thinking about like every summon that I know of that was done with a catalyst, and it always backfires. Unless you count like Shiro and Artoria, but I don't count that personally. Though I guess it was a catalyst summon. But like the previous summon with the same catalyst and the same servant, that ended really, really badly. It's like I said a few times, if Kiritsugu had not used the catalyst, he probably would have gotten Assassin, and the war probably would have been over in less than 48 hours. It was just a bad idea to use a catalyst. We need papers, let's go get papers. Papers, please. Guys, like, that's my line.
これで港に九段の偉人たちがいなければとんだ骨折り損のくたびれ儲けだな。
And then we hopscotch across the river. I'm not sure why I keep grabbing things. I think I've got no need for items anymore. Aside from like restoratives. Which in hindsight I should probably buy more of those.
どうだ私の特大バビューンは
次は もう少し丁寧に頼む。
出たな会議、待っていたぞ。
No.
噂通りというわさっさと片付けよう。
いつでもよい。呼べ。
今更だが、あの名主、俺たちに怪異退治をさせるつもりか？
And then we collect herbs.
あったあった。この調子で集めよう。
I need to double check what Saber's requirements are, because I want to fulfill those. I'm pretty sure it was kill 50 humans. Assuming I remember through to the end of this this encounter, I can just check then.
いつでもよい。呼べ。隙を見せたな。畳みかけろ。見切れまい。
And he's dead. Saber wants 2 gatherings from Todoroki or kill 50 people. Okay. And I think that even if I did go to Todoroki and got the one thing there, that's not enough. So I need to kill people either way. Luckily, affinity techniques do work, so maybe I'll just put Rogue Saber in my servant slot so that I don't forget. Yeah, in the big enemy's eyes, they're moving at normal speed and we are just, like, insane.
まだ揃っていないのか？もう
Like,
少し先の
if I'm not
探査
using Void Stance, I can actually show you what it looks like. So like if I'm not in Void Stance in particular, this is how fast Yori moves.
なんだなんだ、私の暇を潰してくれるのか？いつでもよいぞ。
Like it's pretty quick, but it's reasonable. And then with Void Stance in particular, Yori could give Virgil a run for his money. Which is part of why I favor Void Stance. These aren't humans, but I'll hit them with Rogue Saber anyway. Yeah, the one downside of Void Stance is that I slow down dramatically if I'm not at full health. And like technically that's what the other stances are supposed to be for, but like I could just do everything with white. Meanwhile, fire's the opposite. Fire gets stronger the more health you've lost. The only thing is, my weapons are actually built to increase the damage that I do specifically in Void stance, so I'm kind of like disincentivized for switching. And then I got the permits I needed. Hopefully I can find some people to feed to Saver. The rogue one. How many stances are there? 5. Water, earth, wind, fire, and then void. Yeah, Saber's outfit's really nice. Like, it's practical, but like it's also like very fashionable. And also just like in general, like my personal sense of aesthetics, I love like flowy fabrics, so it very much hits a number of the right points for me. Sadly, Iori just has this or a bathrobe to wear.
よりあれはなんだ
Return home. Let's go home. Bathrobe sounds comfier. I'm pretty sure I could do that. I might have to do that in my home actually. Silly book, this is already a maxed out Magecraft workshop. Why are you acting like I don't know what I'm doing? Crimson Codex is just like, what the heck? When did you do that?
空の方だ
Saber, I believe in you. You can do this. I believe in you, Saber. It's got like 1 hit point. Look, Saber, it's on the ground. It's prone. You'll never get a better chance than this. Yes, like that. No, Saber, don't retreat. Saber, please. Saber, your job is literally to protect me from monsters and like other servants. Why are you hiding behind me? Anyway.
手貸してやるよ
Oh, there's cool. Which is actually moderately annoying because I want to keep Rogue Saber in my ally slot. And then I got crushed by 2 Oni.
危険ツバメ返し
Saber's... So, Saber's, like, Saber's gender is ambiguous. Saber's sex is male. Like, we know that their identity, or like their name in life was Yamato Takeru. but the Fate-verse incarnation is physically very androgynous. Does not at all seem displeased when interpreted as a woman. And when Iori is like, "Can I use your name?" Saber's like, "Absolutely not." So I'm just gonna use neutral. Also, just look at that outfit. I'm just gonna let Saber be Saber. Yeah, so here's Iori in his bathrobe. It's a little plain for my tastes. Sadly, as far as I can tell, those are the only two outfits that he can wear. It's like a system that was like implemented and then never expanded on. Yoshiwara. Oh. We've got Assassin and Archer. Moving ever northward from southern Edo, Dorothea Koya staked her claim. People, possessions, money, magecraft. Even in her pride, she would use whatever means necessary. Setting her sights on the next target, she makes for Shinagawa, an area of utmost importance on the Tokaido. It looks like nobody has taken Shinagawa as their stronghold. With all these heroic spirits everywhere, I can't keep count of everything. I believe you are doing quite well. Setting up base in unknown lands, expanding your territory, commanding your people. You make a fine head of household. Really? I didn't think I'd get your approval. When fighting in unfamiliar territory, one is always at a disadvantage in intelligence. I do hope that the scout-sized center are able to return with useful information. We shall see. Should the worst come to pass, I'd at least know that things didn't go well. I want to find out what the other master's bases are as soon as possible. For now, there's work to be done. I've made arrangements with the town's higher-ups. First, I'll use trade to get a foothold in Shinagawa, and then take over whatever I can. But there's still some time before the scheduled meeting. Why don't we take a look around? I should be safe with you here. Of course, I shall call you Princess in front of others. Let's not. I'm definitely not a princess. Missed opportunity. Or just a pattern of hat on my view of a flower. To me, they kind of remind me of like a stained glass window. Greetings, how are you today? Oh, it's you. I'd like to say that things are going well, but you seem to be having some problems. The cargo for tomorrow's deal still hasn't arrived. It was coming down the main road. But you don't have anybody to spare? Why don't I go and take a look for you? Oh, you do that? I appreciate the offer, but it's too much to ask. Don't worry, we merchants should help each other out, shouldn't we? I didn't think you would lower yourself to doing such menial labor. There is trust that cannot be bought with gold. That is what my father taught me. Though wanting as a mage, he had skills in diplomacy and trade that elevated the family. I see. Apropos of the Tularia Meliagris is close enough. I will have to look that up later. Unless I forget, which I might. Cargo was left behind. This doesn't seem to be the work of bandits or wild beasts. But where are the people? It's just a trace, but I sense some magical residue. Can you track it, assassin? Of course, it is an easy task. Help me. The monsters are just toying with them. It's fortunate they're still alive. We have to hurry. I'll handle this. Behold my thinky noodle arms. Sand vibes? I see it. There's a lot of like whipping and slapping involved. But this guy definitely takes himself way more seriously than Zant does. That did not end well. That's better. I do have my Noble Phantasm, but I want to save that at this point. There might be another fight, and it would be kind of overkill for this one. You saved me, but what's that thing? Who to protect me? Who to protect me? I'm glad you're safe. Your employer sent me to check on things. I'll see that the cargo gets delivered, so rest easy. Sorry to put this all on you. My legs are shaking so bad I don't think I can walk yet. Let's see. Oh, this one. I see, this would... I just wanted to check something. Time to go. You really came through. I owe you. Just name your price. Don't worry. I told you, merchants should help each other out, right? Heh, I can't accept a handout. My pride as a merchant won't allow it. Dude, take a message. In that case, I'd like to discuss that cargo. It is probably from Tsushima, right? I believe the buyer has been misled and you are in possession of smuggled goods. Why not skip the middleman and sell directly to the daughter of a Dutch businessman? Hey, that was a deal well struck. Let's get going, assassin. I am somewhat interested in what those tattoos on her legs are. It's rather strange.
どうしたの？やぶ
Those
から
out of the
棒
blue.
に。
What's on your mind?
お前が継ぐのは
Your brother will inherit the business front and you the secret magical
お
affairs.
前が今日行ったことは
But everything you did today was for your father and brother.
義には無関係
It had nothing to do with the ritual. In fact, it might even slow our progress.
分かっていないわね。
You still don't understand
私
what
たち
we
魔
made you
術師が目
aspire
指す
to,
も
I
の
see.
根源の渦に至るため
We
には
conduct research to understand the root of all things,
研
and
究
that
の
research
ためには
requires
多
funds.
大なざない袖は触
You
れな
can't
いと
get coins out of a
この国で
sleeveless
は言う
kimono.
でしょ
I believe there's a saying like that in this country, right?
先立つものがなければ
If you don't have the wherewithal, then no one, not even mages, can accomplish anything.
それで明
And
ら
to
か
that end, you rely on trade?
そうよ
That's right.
この義に
This
勝
is
つこと
simply
は
another means
手
of
段
securing
の一
victory in
つ
the
でしょ
ritual.
だからといって手は抜かないから
Nevertheless, I won't neglect my duties, so don't worry. Of
それ
course.
じゃ港
Alright,
へ戻
let's
り
head
ま
back
し
to
ょ
the
う
fort.
例のもの
And
受け
here it
取ったわ
is. I trust there's no mistake. Yes, ma'am.
確かに
This is most certainly a fragment taken from Suba Shrine in Shinano
よ
Province.
り取り寄せた御在使の
Oh, no,
かけら
don't
に
do
ご
a
ざいます
catalyst summon. That's definitely why Assassin killed her in the main route. Don't do a catalyst summon, it's a bad idea.
そうありがとう
I see, thank you.
あなた
Can
の
I
主
ask you to
人
give
に
your
お礼
boss
を
my
伝え
thanks
て
as
くれ
well?
承知つかまっ
But
て
of
いまし
course,
た
please give my regards to your
記
father.
念のフレデリック殿とは
We made quite the deal with Lord
取引が
Frederick.
できもした
Lord Masanori is most grateful, I assure you.
石一つと
A western ship's worth of goods is well worth a stone and passage into Yokosuka.
売り手も買い手も得
Making
を
sure
する
both the
の
seller
が
and buyer
商売
benefit
の
is just
基
good
本
business, is it not?
運んできた荷をどう
You
使
are
う
free to decide how to use the
か
cargo
あ
we
なたた
brought.
ち次第だわ
誠に
I truly cannot thank you enough.
でもいいの
But are you sure it's alright for my ship to be anchored here so openly?
幕府は
I was under the impression that the shogunate forbids foreign trade in areas other than Nagasaki.
ええ
That is
正則
true,
様が言う
but
には
Lord Masanori holds sway over powerful individuals.
大掛かりな儀を行うそうで
This ritual will be granted scale, so he desires a runner-up should his first choice fail.
二の
二の矢
A runner-up, eh?
もしや
Could it be that the stone I handed you has some connection to the ritual?
聞かない方が身のためよ
You're better off not knowing. You might find the price for that information a bit steep.
あなたの主も
Did your boss not
そう
warn
言
you
って
as
いたでは
such?
よく
You
ご
are
存
quite
知
well
で
informed. Well, I shall depart. I leave handling the cargo to you. Eh,
無事
I managed to get my hands on it.
諏訪大明神
Take Minakata of the Grand Suba Shrine, a war god of Japan.
そんな多くの信仰
One of this
を集める
deity's
神
relatives was the
の援
mighty
助にして
forefather of the Koga
最強
ninja,
の高
Koga
い後
Saburo.
輩あなたも知っているで
You've
しょ
also heard the tales, haven't
東
you?
洋の
About
忍
this
者の数
legendary
々
ninja
の
of the
立派な
East.
触媒があれば
With the catalyst in
必ず呼べる
hand, I
はず
will
よ
surely be able to call forth the strongest assassin. Evidence of magecraft was found at Todoroki Fudosan. As Zhang Chenggong and his party followed the traces, they headed further south towards Futago.
With each step they take,
A dreadful presence looms ever closer.
轟不動尊の術者を追う確か
We're going after the magic user that was at Todoroki Fudosan. They headed south, right? Yes, most likely. I don't see anybody suspicious nearby. Let's search Futago for now.
人目を気にせずに済むだけ夜の
I much prefer the night. You don't have to deal with so many staring eyes. I sense something. Monsters?
放ってはおけんな
We can't let them roam freely. Let's go after them, Archer. What is this thing? Is it some kind of giant octopus? It seems that's the source of the presence I felt. What shall we do, Master?
放っておけば町の者に害をな
It's a
す
danger to the town. We'll just have to get rid of it. Yeah, Japanese fashion is... like, ancient Japanese fashion, I suppose I should say at this point, is really nice. Especially if you're like used to more Western fashion, it makes for a really nice change of pace. Though these characters, these two here, are actually Chinese. A fun thing about like kimono fashion in particular, a lot of the trends in fashion actually came about because
しかしあんな怪異は初めて見たな。
because like wealthy people of the era basically made it illegal to wear like certain colors or fabrics. They're like, no, this is only for people of status. And so artisans and like working people started turning to things like intricate patterns or like fancy colors, but like on the inner lining rather than on the exterior to express fashion. I've never seen a monster like this. Did the waxing moon's power create it too? Huh.
それはともかく
I sense potent magical energy from up ahead. It's so strong even you should feel it.
ああ。
Yes, and it's not from a monster either. I felt this unpleasant
この
presence
不
before.
快な奥へ進むぞ。
We're going further
あちゃ
in, Archer. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. This swarm of monsters, even I'm a little intimidated. You shouldn't leave this a revenant.
いや、
The weather is dry and the wind is favorable. Is it not perfect for your
今
noble
ほどお前の
phantasm?
方
Huh. Quoting Sun Tzu at me, eh? Fine, I will burn them away as you command. Like, this is not a fight that calls for the noble phantasm. What are you on? Like, if some enemies, like, show up and they're, like, big ones, sure. I still sense something. More are coming. Beware.
いくら湧いて出よう
Huh, no matter how many come, it's all the same. Let's do this, Archer. And now we use the noble phantasm. Though I guess I did set the precedent of using the noble phantasm on like one enemy that was already dead. And then I shot him 37 times between the legs. There we go. Whoa, this is a big catch. Why do you look so excited? Skyrim stealth archery. You just keep shooting them, they'll die eventually. This seems to be some kind of sea monster.
へえ。
Huh, it looks edible if properly cooked. Like the octopus I've had before in Mina. Somebody who lived near the sea would say something like that. Huh.
しかし
It seems our efforts will go unrecognized, though. There's nobody around.
この俺でも
Even
わ
I
か
can
る
tell
ほど
that
に
this
濃い魔
thick
力が
magical energy is
アサシ
doubtlessly
ンのものである
assassins,
のは
but
怪異どもは
the monsters
奴
might
の
simply
魔
have
力
been
に
drawn
当て
here
られ
by it.
大方は英月の
With
影響だ
everything
ろう
happening in
な
Ada these days, it could very well be the waxing moon's fault.
いや
No,
違う
that's not it.
大元はそうなのだろ
Well, in the grand scheme of things, yes, but this octopus monstrosity is a sea monster.
う川に湧いたわけではない
It did not come out of the river. It deliberately came upstream to wreak
と
havoc.
なれば
If that's the case, then it came up the Tamagawa River from the sea in Kanagawa?
あ
I believe
あ
so.
アサシン陣営
Then Assassin's encampment is likely positioned along the coast.
道理だな
That would make
な
sense.
らば今頃
And Iori and Saber might have discovered Assassin's hideout by now? Yes,
あり
it's
得
quite
る話
possible.
だ
Let's hope so anyway.
ひとまず今日
Let's return to
は赤坂
Akasaka
に戻
for
るか
today. It'd be reckless to pursue any
意
further.
見があったな
I agree, Master.
今晩のうちに英気を
Use
養
tonight to
っておけ
revitalize your spirit. I will rest as well.
サーバントは
Servants do not
夢を
dream.
垣間見るものがあ
If
るとすれ
anything,
ば
we merely glimpse images of our
契約
contracted
を交わ
master's
した
past.
ゆえに
Which is why,
冬季東土に行っても
even if you travel to faraway China, you must not forget the way of the warrior.
己のあり方を定
I
め
have
た
heard the voice of your mother, who raised you to be who you are.
これからもどうかそばで
I
支え
ask
て
that
く
you
れ
continue to provide your support, for you are my hope and my
己
future.
の生き方を定めた
I have heard the voice of the one you serve, who dictated how you should live.
聞き分けろ
The Ming has long since fallen. We must dispose of old baggage lest we
た
flounder.
元を分かった
I have heard the voice of your father, from whom you parted ways.
捨てよと嘘吹いたその荷が
Do you
何である
realize
の
what
か
the baggage you say to throw away is, and
そ
what
の
that action
行
would
いが
mean?
父上
Father, am I to believe that you don't even understand that
何
much?
もかもを失っ
And
た
I have heard the voice of a man who lost everything.
貴様
Damn
同
you!
族を
How could you turn against your own blood?
滅びない
It won't fall.
栄華の国
His
は
Majesty's kingdom will surely not fall.
必ず
I will restore it, no matter whose blood I must spill to see it done.
他の誰でもない彼
It
の
is
過
his
去であり
past, his despair.
かくして復讐の政
The
権は
general's
倒
father
れ
apparently
将
surrendered
軍
quickly
の
when
父君
Fuzhou
は早々
collapsed.
と当時のことは伝聞
This
で
is
しか
only a
存じ
rumor
ま
I've
せんが
heard, but apparently they
侵攻
colluded
以前
before
よ
the
り
invasion.
なるほど
I see.
実
An
に
action
商
truly
人らし
befitting a
い
merchant.
目下の損失を
In
最小
terms
限
of
にとど
minimizing
め
his
る
own
という意
losses,
味
it
で
likely
は
wasn't the wrong decision.
将軍は免従さ
The
えも
general
拒
could
ま
not
れ
even
た
feign obedience. It seems he cannot control those he despises.
短い付き合いだが
We have only been together a short while, but that much I know.
他者や己を欺くことは
Though
できて
he
も
may be able to deceive
己
others and
の
even
信念
himself,
そ
he
のもの
cannot
に
betray
は
his
嘘がこの
principles.
戦乱の世で
It is truly a
彼の
miracle
よう
that
な
such
人
an
間が
upright
まっとう
person
に
can
生きて
survive
い
in
け
this
るのは
chaotic world.
だからこそ皆
But that
あ
is
の
perhaps
方に惹
exactly
か
what
れる
draws
の
so
で
great
しょ
to
う
him.
並の者は
No
ああも
normal
ひたむ
person
き
could
に
continue to
天
so
へ手を
earnestly
伸び
reach for
続
the
ける
heavens.
うん
Huh.
おっと
Now this is a rare
珍しい
pairing.
組み合わせじゃない
And
か
what are you two talking about so
こ
early
ん
in the
な朝
morning?
早い
お前の話で盛り上
We
がっ
were
てい
just
た
having
と
a
ころ
lively
だ
discussion about you. Did you rest
休
well,
息は
Master?
おかげさまで
Quite well, thank you.
さあ
Now
まず
then,
は
we
イ
need
ゴ
to
リた
hear
ちの
Iori's
報告を
report.
聞かねばなるま
I
い
should make preparations for the session.
お手伝いいたします
Allow me to assist you. We're gonna take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom, anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. It has been approximately 5 minutes. I return.
知っている。
I know another man too earnest for his own good,
ひたむ
much
き
like
に
you.
そういう人間が
Once somebody like that
ひと
makes
た
up
び
their mind,
心を
they
決
will
めた
fight
ら
to their
ば
last breath.
だからこそ
And that's exactly why I wish to see where this path of yours leads
お
you.
前の行く末を
Thank
見
you for the
届けたい
headlights.
と。
Thank you for the hydration. Very important to stay hydrated. Yoshiwara. Alright, it's Berserker. I'm pretty sure I just bullied Berserker. That was like one combo and it made him put his shell gauge back up. And he's dead. Okay, even though he got dumpstered, he's apparently so scary that we're running away anyway.
何かあるな。
Rokugo Ohashi. Oh, people, I need to kill these with the other saber.
盾としてでもマスターを撃て。
持ち得るためには味方の命をも捧げるこちらも相応の覚悟を望まれる。
It'd be kind of funny if I could like call off like my saber and be like, no, 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 leave it all to Rogue. And they all run away. Yep, we need 29 more. Good progress. And then once I've got that, I can
共に行くぞ。
keep an eye out for Li Xuan's directions, which I presume I only get if I side with Dorothea.
揺るがぬ血のごとく隙を見せたか。この勝利貴殿あってこそだ。
I also need to remember to buy food from stalls. Luckily, there seem to be a few of those over this way. Oh, wait, hold on. Vinegar rice inside fried tofu skin, beloved by Ada residents and foxes.
またのお越しをお待ちしてます。
先日は
平賢寺、確かあの辺りだったか。
He already knows where to go.
何か食べるか？
In my expert opinion, I've never had abraje, so I can't actually comment. I've been trying to find some, but I live in a place that really doesn't have Japanese food,
よほど嬉しいらしい。
which is regrettable.
いらっしゃい。また来ておくれよ。
Because apparently foxes go crazy for it. And like, I'm down to go crazy. Especially if it's because like what I'm eating is like so delicious I can't contain it.
この辺り。
よし。連中めとはいえ、英霊でも。
This means we're facing humans and not heroic spirits. All I can do is watch.
罠にはまったか。
Well, I should technically still have Rogue Saber. Oh well.
氷の球は後世を守ってきた相当の鋭さなのだな。離れることで分かることもある。 Yeah, it's missile combat. It's gonna have mobile game vibes. Your swordplay was not bad at all. You fight well considering how weak you are, Iori.
人相手なら
I can manage if it's human opponents. But Iori, why have you polished your swordsmanship to this degree in the first place? Things might be different in a more tumultuous era, but these are times of peace. Were it not for the waxing moon ritual, swordsmanship such as yours would be unneeded. I am using the new game plus difficulty.
そうだな。
A fair point. Even still,
剣を捨てては生きられ
were
な
I
い。
to give up the sword, I couldn't go on living. It's what makes me who
い
I...
や、
No, never
なんでも
mind.
ない。
Let's hurry on.
剣を
Couldn't go on living? Get plugged, Flo. You're mine now.
これで結界が弱まったは
I'm
ずじゃ。
curious why I said that that dialogue was different.
とく済ませるとしようぞ。
Like, did Iori not allude to the fact that, like, he needs to be a swordsman as hard in the last playthrough? Hard to say.
いらっしゃい。
I don't need any of
ま
this.
たのお越しをお待ちしてます。
But I wanna group people up as efficiently as possible so I can blow them all up.
力を借りる。
あいわかった。
こ 支度はいいなセイバー。
ああ無論だ。
Yep, Rogue Saber does have a horse, yes.
この程度朝飯前というあれだ。覚悟は良いか。
頼む。
任せろ。息を合わせろ。行くぞ。
Now, Surian, if you find yourself in a position where you're playing this game, you can feel free to farm kills however you please.
刮目せよ。任せろ。息を合わせろ。行くぞ。
力を借りる。
任せろ。息を合わせろ。行くぞ。
The mount would be better if there was like a constant stream of them, but if I can get them all clumped up together, just hitting them with the single affinity gauge version is more efficient.
気を見せたな。畳みかけろ。
If it takes two, it's exactly the same, but also faster. So it's really only better if it would take at least 3 Burn the Darknesses.
終わったな。では
Time to take the
連
night
絡
line.
を抑えるぞ。
Need to kill 4 more people.
かの寺の結界は解けたはずじゃ。
よし。では寺に乗り
And then
込
I
む
can
ぞ。
max out, I think it's water.
今度こそ洗いざらい吐かせてやろう。
Yep.
寄っていきませんか。いらっしまた来ておくれよ。
Luckily, eating food instantly heals injuries. How should work like that IRL?
気配が。
魔力を受けてる。私はどうということよ。
You get a tummy ache and then like eating more actually fixes it.
セイバー。
ああいうわかった。
Okay, so that should be Saber's skill tree opened up.
力を借りる。
But just to be safe, I'll do it again.
さあ参ろう。武者のセイバー。
共に行く。
I just realized, Rogue Saber doesn't have a Noble Phantasm gauge yet. I guess because I never figured out who he is. Or rather, never was told. There's really not much figuring that's going on. And then he ends his own life. That's like the opposite of food instantly healing you. Oh, leyline conflict, let's go. While I'm here, Rogue Saber's thing is now open.
この力使命のために
I have nothing to ask from the likes of this waxing moon. I did once have a wish, but it is nothing that the moon of this world can grant. Rogue Saber digressions. Yeah, technically I think I would want to switch to Li Xuan at this point. Even though I think I can get everything just by doing his questline. So in light of that, actually I should switch to Tamamo instead.
わかりましたわ。
Alright, I guess technically speaking I should have used Darting Dragon, because those are going to be less valuable once I start splitting up with Saber. Because they only give actions to Iori and not to both of us. Oh well.
「我らが地敵に狙われておるぞ」これでは破れる結界が
I've got enough affinity to have save or protect Kawasaki, so this is fine.
我らが地
セイバーいけるか。
あ、 戻ったぞ。
I like how Iori gets experience for that even though he wasn't involved at all. Okay, they weren't worth any affinities, so I gotta be careful now. As I now don't have the affinity to Order Saber.
より
This is fine.
良いぞ。
おお。
こ
so much for those. Gotta make them into calamari. And then I'll do it again. Or they'll get shot and I'll have to deal with this guy. I really don't care about your aura, dude.
受けるがいい。終わらせましょう。燃え盛る炎のごとく。食らうがいい。弱いな。甘い。
Saber saving, that's okay. I really thought I was gonna break his shell in time. Oh well. Yeah, no, in New Game this fight was a massive slog. Mostly because I couldn't punch through his shell gauge fast enough. Luckily I'm a higher level now, so it's okay. Well, it's still a bit of a slog, but like, it doesn't take as long. I also still kind of feel like his hitboxes are a little bit weird. Whatever, I just have to kill him here, and then it's like one more fight after this, and then I never have to talk to him again. I like how during that, the camera just kind of like panned over to Iori being upside down. Like, live your best life, dude. Tamanawa. Yeah, about that bounded field.
よし。
いささか
I like how he's like, their guard is down and then moves within their own territory. It's like, I don't think that really counts. I like how that one guy span all the way around. It's like, get washing machine, nerd. Oh boy, more snakes. And octopuses and such. They're all dead. Yep, Archer can have that. That'll handle that. As for us, we should finish claiming the stuff here. A bow clash with a random mook is not what I anticipated when I did that. And he's dead. I got the various archer movesets mixed up. I was thinking about Zhao's. That should give that whole bit to me. Yes, it did. Then I go like this, it gives me those. I need to go here. Investigate the situation, whatever that means. Skill acquisition. Oh, right, Yori. I can get this. Increases the effectiveness of evasion. I'm not actually sure what that does. So yeah, the only thing left now is get 2 more things from Li Xuan, which basically just boils down to do his digressions. And then I can max out Yori. Minus all the hidden skills that I presumably will get when I do the other route. Cute flowers. Oh, this does send me really far. I'm not sure if I like that, actually. I got so used to the other one. Like the spacing that it gave me. I'll live. They've all been bitten. Why you... Oh, hello. Was I able to touch this before? Makoda Buddha. Alright. I was gonna complain about it, like, twisting my camera without asking me, but then I'm just like, oh, actually, this is fine. And there's Rogue Assassin.
貴様、はぐれのサーバントだろう。いえ、何故我らを襲った。
言ったであろう、ただの戯れと。主らも肩肘張らずに楽しみがよい。
合図をくれ、より。
どうした？手が緩んでおるぞ。死に物狂いで挑んでこんか。あれとも無駄だ。
Yeah, in extra fighting him, you might just judge wrong what he's gonna do, and then he just kills you. In here, even if he does hit you, you can just like pause time, eat rice, and you're fine. And he's gone. I find him kind of difficult to repose because... Oh, Saber, where is he? He escaped.
素性は分から
It's a
ずじ
shame
ま
we
いか
couldn't learn anything about him. He was quite an opponent. Yes, he was. For an old man, his fists were
無
impressive.
手であの戦いぶり
Fighting barehanded like that, he must be a renowned warrior.
奴が我らを狙
If
う
he's
な
after
ら
us, we'll meet him again, and we won't let him escape next time.
あ
Yeah, next time we'll win.
お
What is it, Saber?
君を見ている
I'm
のだ
observing you. You seem to have calmed down.
ロースとの戦いに
During the fight with that old man, you became quite heated.
高ぶる
Heated? Was I?
えまさか
Are you saying you
気
didn't
づいて
notice?
いはぐれのランサーにも
With Rogue Lancer and now this old man, your blood churns when you spy a strong foe.
そう
My blood? Really?
は
Ugh, I don't even know what to
もう
say.
いいか
Just be careful not to run off alone anymore. You're still far too weak. If you truly want to win the ritual, you can't be so reckless against heroic spirits. Alright,
分かった
I
よ
got it.
ならばよ
Good.
よし
Now, let's continue on to
まだよ
Yokosuka.
セイバ
Wait, Saber.
ん
戦国の一戦で
I'm exhausted after that fight. I don't think I can continue on right now.
なんだ
What am I gonna do with you, Iori?
引きずって
But
い
I
った
suppose
ところ
something
で
good comes from pushing yourself too hard. Right?
仕方ない
If that's what it has to be, then let's head back and eat dinner. I remember what we're having tonight. That was a quick mood change. So what I'm gathering from like all the differences in dialogue is that there's like a bloodthirst inside of Iori that people are concerned by. Which also lines up with what Musashi was saying in the last round. Also, I was gonna say, Assassin's probably easier to parry if you're like... memorized his timings. But I haven't done that, so... I don't quite have an easy time with him. I usually repose things by like looking at the animations that the enemy is doing. Yeah, you memorize the timing. I don't do that. Then we have a chat with Saber. And then our house gets blown up or something, I guess. You can perform various upgrades in the workshop, is that so?
始めよ
Doesn't look like it. None of these are things I haven't done before. Yokosuka.
敵マスターおよびサーバントを発見。総員、戦闘態勢に行こう。
悪いが通してもらうぞ 情けはかけられん
I think we're coming up on the point of divergence. At least the first one. I recall it being in this area.
アキラじゃ。
なかなか骨が折れそうだな。おお、そうだ。
Yeah, it's a lot faster when you're skipping all the cutscenes.
ダメださあ地道に対処するぞ
来たか。 総員戦闘準備。
受けてみろ。見えた。終わりだ。
Oh. I'm pretty sure that I couldn't get these in the last round, or I would have. Jesus Statuary. Were those perhaps the things that I needed for Li Xuan? No, they weren't.
魔力炉が壊された時のための保険だろうな。なかなか用心深いの。
だがあの程度私の敵ではない。朝飯前というやつだ。いつでもよい。呼べ。
And then the snake died.
必ず生かそう。
Also, I like how Saber is making fun of Iori, even though Iori's higher level.
物のけに情けは無用。また一つ強くなれたか。
相手が悪かったな。
Like, obviously levels aren't canon, it's just kind of funny whenever that happens. They'll break another barrier. After breaking some people. And he's dead.
なんでくれるな。
まあこんなものだろう。
Then Saber has to single-handedly fight these snakes while Iori charges energy. Also, another reason why I've gotten to this point in the story so fast is that I'm not doing any digressions that were in the first round. Those took a lot of time up. Screw this bat in particular. I've seen any Leash Wind aggressions. Like, I don't think there was a single one in the original route.
天地自然にあふるる力、ここに集いて刃となす絶技発揮怒涛。
Well, if they are necessary and they're not marked as much, then I guess they're just not getting done, regrettably. Oh well. And Iori did it. Now it's flipped. Now Iori protects Saber. Thankfully at this point Iori is low-key stronger than Saber, so this is fine. Granted, Iori didn't have to fight a gigantic snake.
確実に攻防の中心に迫っている。敵が新たな策を浪する前に攻め落とすぞ。どう攻める？
運が良かったな、より。
なんでくれるな。
相手が悪かったな。
To the heart of the workshop. Trying to remember which fight comes next. I think it's the fight against Orochi. Physic Assassin summons it. And like that's where non-rogue archer and non-rogue saber reveal the noble phantasms. And they're dead. And I mostly am recalling based on the background. I remember like this tile set being a thing when I was fighting Orochi. So many fights. Granted, that's kind of what you sign up for when you play a game like this.
いよいよ決戦か。さて。いつでも良いぞ。良い。
まだ片付いてなくてよかったわ。ここからは
And then the friends join in.
ツバメ返し
Luckily, Ioi has 3 charges of Valor Strike, so I don't mind using one here.
吉原を狙った報いはきっちり受けてもらうわよ。ヘビ男、いつでもよい。呼べ。残念だったわ。
押し切る。
合図をくれ。より
捉えた。
なかなかどうしてキリがない。うつ病で押すにしても限度ってものなの。
ならば受けてみろ。これでやっちゃうまで。さてこれで多分皆の倍は働かなくてはな。
そうだ。とはいえありきりすぎる。
合図をくれ。よりドラゴンゴート。
It's getting a little hard to tell what's going on at all. So many things here. I suppose I'll just have to kill most of them.
互いにこの木を戦い抜ければの話だ。
有利君への口説き文句にしてはどっちすぎたわね。あんたのマスターさん。
どうやらそのようだ。ま、ここはおとなしく従うか。にしてもその肉が日和のしかいやはや 2.1 流というのは凄まじいな。
あ、私はナンパとは引っかかりませんので。あと15分もなかったらありかもですわ。
この話の通じなさ。なるほど。これがバーサーカーというやつか。
いつでもよい。呼べ。いらねえ。合図をくれ。より。いつでもよい。呼べ。
Situation is well and truly handled. Then there's Ryder, takes control of the thing. Oh, and I had to face it with Saber Solo.
お前を立とう。とっ。ついて。活目せよ。行くぞ。とっ。せいや。とっ。せいや。強きオロチ。だが私を止めるにはあたわん。邪毒か。近寄ると面倒だ。なかなかやるな。しかしこれでは町が見切れまい。はっはっ。
Shell's almost broken. Shell's broken.
やっ。とっ。 なかなかやる。あがくか。そうか。来い。とっ。魔性のオロチ何のその。
Oh, now Musashi.
いざ参る。
Yeah, okay.
こんな感じ。よっ。こうかしら。人類一戦。覚悟。よーし。
I do think it's kind of cool how... I mean, obviously the reasons why, but like I do think it's kind of cool how similar Musashi's gameplay is to Iori in voice style.
人類一戦。人類一戦。活目なさい。あっちゃ。 もうめちゃくちゃねこの戦場
Snake having that many eyes seems like it'd be painful. Probably.
感じ
Though it's a snake, so they might have nictating membranes, I think they're called.
こんな感じ
It's kind of like a transparent cover over the eye.
決めるご期待に応えましょう一等三敗
Basically, specifically to like serve as an eyelid that protects you from like debris and drying out and such without actually blocking your vision.
だいぶ追い込んできたわねもう一息
And it's dead. And like you usually see those on like reptiles and such, so that snake could probably have some. Ah, that was some hard work. Oh, and now I gotta fight Ryder. Fighting Ryder's a pain. Mostly because Ryder has really spammable ranged attacks that very easily stagger lock you, which is not fun. I call shenanigans. And she's dead. Now, Saber, thank you for the hypnots. This feeling, it's been so long. Thou serpent, be purified by my sword. Also, I noticed that this entire time, Sabers had a second sword that they wear on their hips that they just haven't drawn once. I might have like mentioned it before, but like, I really do wonder why that's there. Like, it's not the sword that they use when they're hiding Ame no Murakumo.
凄まじい。まさに至高。絶技の中の絶技。まさに幼い頃に垣間見た。
It's exactly like the sword saint I saw as a child.
ならばこそ。
And if so, Ah,
破らねば
I must surpass
Tachi-yukan.
it. Okay, so this route definitely seems to be like Iori's got a hunger for power and violence, which I can get behind. My favorite, saying skip and then the game asking me if I'm sure 7 times in a row. Alright, we're gonna call it there for the night. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Sunday. It's going to be a multi-world between Hollow Knight, Wind Waker, and Link to the Past. Next time I'm playing this in particular is going to be on Monday. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.